Hello, I'm Death's Arrow, and this is a WoT I'm Thinking Debrief for the week of June 9th, 2013. The idea of carrying your weight in a match is something I see get thrown around from time to time. The question is, what does this actually mean? Ideally, it would mean that you would need to do your tank's health and damage, and if everyone on your team did that, then you should destroy the enemy team, assuming they have the same amount of hit points, of course. Reality, though, is a bit different, as generally speaking, only a handful of players in a given match do the majority of the damage. To illustrate this point, I've pulled a few screenshots of some typical battle outcomes. Thanks to the new After Action screens in 8.5, every player's damage output is shown. This is a fairly typical battle result. The top 6 tanks on my team did at least their hit points and damage. Only 2 tanks in the enemy team did. A number of tanks didn't have much of an impact on the match, including 2 tanks on each team doing 0 damage. The most egregious contribution is the T-62A on the enemy team that only did 267 points of damage. This match looks a lot closer than it actually was, with only 3 tanks on each team doing at least their hit points and damage. 4 tanks in each team did 0 damage, including 1 tier 8. This battle is a good example of a high damage battle in my case with bad results. While I did twice as much damage as the next tank on my team and more than 3 times the hit points of my tank, I didn't do enough to carry this team. This match was a tight battle that I had a big hand in turning around for a win. 5 tanks on my team and 4 on the enemy team did at least their hit points and damage. 7 tanks in the match did no damage, including the super Pershing on my team. The real atrocity is the number of tier 8 tanks that had next to no impact on the match. 3 on each team did next to nothing damage-wise. Top tiers should carry matches, not get one hit in and die. What this amounts to is that carrying your weight actually requires you to do more damage than your tank's health, since in most battles there's a large disparity in damage done between members of the team. It also seems like there's regularly a handful of players that don't contribute anything meaningful to their team, so doing more damage is always going to be helpful. Scouts are the obvious exception, assuming that they actually scout and don't just suicide into enemy lines. Although some scouts do have decent guns and can contribute damage, as you'll see shortly in the match of the week. The replay that we'll be looking at is from June 9th on Highway in my T-71. I am platooned with Blitz Canuck and his T-71. As noted on the loading screen, this is a standard battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a tier 8 battle with 5 tier 8s on my team and 7 on the enemy team. My team has 6 tier 7s while the enemy team has 4. Both teams have 4 tier 6s. No arty in this match. The reason for the disparity in tier 8s is due to the T-71 being weighed by the matchmaker like a tier 8. I don't recognize anyone in this battle. Prior to the match loading in, my game client crashed. Thankfully, I have a pretty fast computer and was able to get loaded back in before the match started. This forced me to rely on Blitz to make early tactical assessments and decisions on where to go. Not necessarily a bad thing since he is an excellent player. His call is to head north to scout out the northwest part of the map. Going to town doesn't make a lot of sense for us anyways, and I prefer to be as flexible as possible in my T-71. While I'm not necessarily planning to stick with Blitz the entire match, we'll start out by scouting together in force. I want to head as far to the west as possible, as there is some good terrain here to provide cover from being spotted. I'm going to follow the little road between the hills here, because that will keep me in cover. We've got a 59-16 spotted, and I almost collided with Blitz there. Thankfully he was paying enough attention to avoid me. Continue to head north. We're going to go all the way up to the corner at A1. 59-16 has disappeared from view. There he is again. Line up the enemy T-29 that just popped up, and both of us start popping shots into him. Gotten 3 hits, 2 for damage, another hit for damage, 5th hit for damage, and I bounce my 6th shot, begin my reload cycle. Blitz also bounces his last shot and begins to reload. And our Hellcat knocks down the T-29. Looking at the mini-map while I reload shows that the team hasn't deployed in a particularly normal manner, with only 4 tanks near town. We're going to need to continue to press this flank, otherwise the enemy will roll right through them and head to our base. Rapid but cautious advance is our plan, as we don't know what else the enemy has on this flank. If you look at the mini-map, I've got the XVM mod that adds the max sight circle, so if there are any enemies on top of the ridge, I can't spot them from this position. Got an M6 down in the valley. And as I've reloaded, I'm going to line them up. Can really only see his turret. Aiming, and I missed my first shot. Hit my second shot. Missed my third. Blitz knocks him down. I'm going to force a reload here. We've made the call that we're going to push in. Blitz is taking the lead here. We've got a lot of support on this flank. And we've got two enemies spotted at the ridge, a Carnarvon, VK30-01H, and a Jagdpanther. Hit the Jagdpanther. Second time for damage, I'm staying focused on him. Third hit, and he gets knocked down by our Tiger P, lining up the Carnarvon. I get a hit, another hit, and I'm reloading, and our KV-1S knocks him down. Looking at the minimap, as expected, town has fallen. With 2/3 of our team on this flank, continuing to push to the enemy base is our best option, especially with our T-71s that can be uncapped very quickly. Got a Cromwell on his way back. I've got a full clip in the chamber already. Blitz is already also reloaded. Cromwell goes right after Blitz. But he stops against that building. And we start pouring rounds into him and knock him down. After taking down the Cromwell, it's clear that the enemy has tanks coming back to defend Cap with a Type 59 in sight and likely more behind him, as only 6 enemy tanks are spotted in the south. The normal strategy I see players use in this situation is to hunker down behind cover and try to cap out the base. With 45 seconds remaining to cap out the base, this isn't a viable strategy. Leaving Cap to take on the 59 in more favorable conditions is the better option. It will also allow me to take on other enemies coming back. I'm going to circle around the backside of Cap. Go around the buildings. And maneuver into flank on the 59. Blitz is hiding behind the building, continuing to cap to put pressure on the enemy team. Come around, I continue to circle him. He tracks me, gets a hit. Hit him in the flank again. Coming around, miss that shot. Bounce in the back, I block him off from escaping. Get another hit. Stand behind him. And our Hellcat knocks him down. We now have an IS-3 coming back. I'm not going to stay on Cap here. I'm going to continue to press our advantage while waiting for my reload to complete, but I can get some flank shots on this IS-3. Staying below his line of sight. The IS-3 doesn't have that much gun depression, and this little bit of hill here gives me some protection in case he tries to turn on me. We've got 2 on Cap now. You can see here how moving off Cap is paid off, as the IS-3 and Centurion Mark I are ignoring me to try and reset Cap. This gives me free flanking opportunities with minimal return threat, as the enemy needs to save their shots for the cappers. He's burning down. I got another hit. Got 1 shell remaining. I back off, I miss. Down to 465 hit points. The IS-3 has made it back to Cap, and he did get a reset in. Waiting for my reload to complete. The enemy really has no interest in me because I'm not on Cap. Also have a Super Pershing who gets a hit in on me. But I'm staying focused on the Centurion Mark I, and I knock him down. Get a flank shot on the Super Pershing. Gets another hit on me. Back behind the ridge, I force a reload. IS-3 is fighting our guys on Cap. They let him on fire. And Blitz knocks him down. Get up on top of this ridge here next to the highway bridge. I'm lining up the Super Pershing. Missed my first shot. Get a hit. Another hit. Third hit. Fourth hit. Fifth hit, leaving him at 29 hit points. And our Tiger P knocks him down for the win. Looking at the after action screens, I destroyed 2 tanks, damaged 6 more for a Confederate medal, hit 32 of 40 shots, did 4,304 points of damage, and earned 2,598 experience before the double. Overall, pushing the eastern flank on the highway map is a rather unconventional strategy. Normally this map is won or lost in town, where the northern base generally has the advantage. Rather than play to the enemy's strength, we push the opposite flank hard, easily breaking through to their base. The enemy, which had a significant advantage in the south, had to come back to defend Cap, which reduced their forces to a level that couldn't overcome our defenders. When I noticed the enemy was coming back to defend Cap, I made the call to pull off an attack. This strategy paid off as I had numerous opportunities to unload clips into the enemy with little threat of return fire. On the theme of carrying your weight, this team did a pretty good job, with 7 tanks at least matching their health and damage. Only 2 enemy tanks were able to hit that mark. 3 of our tier 8s did essentially nothing, which is egregious in a tier 8 battle, but Blitz and I helped to pick up the slack, as he did more than double his health, and I did more than 5 times mine. Thank you for watching this What I'm Thinking debrief. Stay tuned for more content soon.
Ha ha ha.